That is right, the first episode of the Ride Along podcast. So why the rename? Well, I mean, it just makes for brand simplicity, right? I mean, we've got the Ride Along series, which has really been taken off. Thank you guys so much if you've been watching that. And if you haven't, you need to be, man. Seriously. The whole platform, the whole point of the Ride Along YouTube show is to showcase home inspectors in the field. And that's really what the podcast was for as well. I mean, telling your guys' stories, letting you guys talk about how you run your businesses, your experience as business owners, kind of your background as well. I just love facilitating and telling people stories, man, and that's really what the whole point and purpose is. So with the new version of the show here, we've got some really cool things that are coming out. Number one, I kind of want to take you guys riding along with me a little bit. And I tell you this because I started a home inspection company this past winter. So we're coming into the spring season here. And if you're wondering, like, okay, well, how are you juggling the show? I know you work for Porch. How are you doing that and as a home inspector? And well, I mean, look, part-time, baby. Here's the thing. I missed being in the field, and I get to use Porch's tools. Yes, like they give me access to them. It's awesome. In fact, I actually helped with a lot of the beta testing for the ISN Report Writer, the Palm Tech new version of the Report Writer with Palm Tech Complete. And the more I got to play around with these tools on sample inspections, the more I was like, I can't really fully give the best advice or insight on how to further develop some of these products as a beta tester, unless I'm doing an actual real life home inspection with it. So that's allowing me to use things like Guardian inspection payments as well. Maybe at some point I'll be able to use ACC for a call center down the road, but really I just get to play with toys, man, inspector toys, and call it work and make content around it. It's a lot of freaking fun. And but the thing that I love the most is telling y'all stories, not just mine. With Clarity Inspections, which is the LLC that I started down here in Florida, kind of one of the goals that I had and the way that this started, I wanted to try on my own to experience starting a business from the ground up. And again, so many of you guys have done this. This is how you get into the field for most of you. Me, I hadn't gotten to do this before, so I couldn't really relate to that experience with y'all. I worked for BPG for many years. They're a nationwide company owned by Fidelity. And so worked for them. I worked for a small mom and pop shop before that. And I never really got to experience starting my own thing though. So I did from the ground up, like a lot of you guys do, getting your LLC paperwork filed, your tax EID number, all of that, getting licensed in Florida, moving my license from Virginia to Florida, which was not an easy task. It was actually annoying as all get out. Florida, you've got to loosen up on some of these things here, man. Jeez. I sent in paperwork so many times, and they would bounce it back to me, and I would have to resend the same thing that I already sent. It was obnoxious. So if you guys have license filing stories, please sound off in the comments, send them to me in an email, whichever. Let's commiserate, because it was miserable trying to push that through. But I did all of that. And then one day I was sitting at a conference, because, I meet you guys at a lot of these, and I was looking around the vendor hall, and I'm like, dude, I want to try using some of the tools that are readily available to inspectors right here in this room. And that's exactly what I'm doing now. So, for example, like Breeze Microlabs, Thornberry, if you want to reach out to me, man, I am happy to test out your stuff and promote it on the show. Let's collab. Seriously, let's do it. I wanted to use stuff that was readily available to you guys. I even used Internachi to design my logo with their free logo design service that they offer. So, these are all things that you can do. So, and there are still a lot of aspiring inspectors out there. I see them at conferences all the time. So I wanted to kind of try things from a complete bootstrap perspective with things that are readily available and affordable. And, that way I can kind of coach other inspectors that are starting out on what works, what doesn't. And you can kind of just enjoy the journey from my perspective. Let me learn some of the stuff the hard way for you. And some of that was even learning how to do the 4-point and wind mitigation inspections, which you don't have to do up in Washington, D.C. and Northern Virginia. So it's been a huge learning experience, and it's been a lot of fun doing that. So you get to ride along with me for a little bit of that. But a couple of other things that we're going to be doing as well is actually a new segment that we're kicking off right now in like 2 seconds. I think we're just going to call it Wise Words with Wally. And it's going to feature Wally Conway because, dude, nobody has better business building advice and leadership advice than that guy. He was a coach for Bold with Keller Williams. He has been a leadership coach in so many other capacities, and now he does that with IEB. So if you know him, You love him. If you haven't met him yet, you need to. Sit back, relax. Wise Words with Wally coming your way right now. So Wally, there is a lot of stuff that has been on your mind lately about the health and wellness of business owners within the home inspection industry, pest control industry. But why is this something that has really been on your mind lately? What's really been kind of bringing this to the forefront of your thought?
Well, this is my 30th year hanging out with home inspectors, and I've noticed a change in some of these fine people, and they've become cranky old men. And I feel like they've become cranky old men because their bodies are beginning to break down. I've been very fortunate my whole life to have maybe good genes and be healthy, but I also work at it every day. I get my workout in every day, I try to eat right, and I feel strong even at 68 years old. So working with IEB and some other groups, we are really trying to up that conversation and talk about, in order to do well in my business, I need to feel well and be well. So that not only can I engage in business, but the other aspects of my life that I want to enjoy.
Sure, no, absolutely, man. And so it's almost like a leading by example thing for you. But the key to not being a cranky old man, then it sounds like it's just simply taking care of yourself first. And what kind of an impact can that have on everything else that flows out of being a business owner?
It's fabulous. You want to have the energy to go all in on your business when it's business time, and you still want to have some reserve and some residual energy to be able to do the things that your business is supposed to fund for you. I want to feel good when I'm with my wife. I want to feel good when I'm with my friends. I want to be able to do things in the community, have the energy and the stamina to go out and enjoy myself.
To enjoy your boat.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I love that we're having this whole conversation about wellness on a boat. Like, what better place to do that, you know? It's just kind of the embodiment of freedom, of having a personal life beyond work. I feel like that's why people love the water, you know? It's whereas we're like contained by life over here, when you get out by the water, everything just kind of opens up and you're kind of in charge of your own destiny.
It's my Zen place. Gary Keller says, the purpose of business is to fund the perfect life.
Right.
So the reason we go to work is to have that little bit of extra treasure that we can do other things with to really enjoy. And a key piece of wellness is our mental wellness. If we're angry, if we're frustrated, if we're disappointed all the time, that doesn't serve the rest of your body very well. So for me, for the longest time, since I was a little tiny kid, being on the water, being on boats is a place of like total rest and relaxation. I don't think about attics or crawl spaces or anything like that here. I'm thinking about engine rooms and bottom paint and things of that sort.
Right. All right. Well, thank you for that, Wally Conway. Always a pleasure to sit down with that guy, especially on a boat, man. Like, that guy's got a freaking nice boat. And I love that he's totally the embodiment of that mindset that you build a business to fund the life that you want, you know, your dream life. You don't make the business your life. It's so easy for that to happen. But this guy, he's really worked hard and struggled a lot over the years too. He'll tell you that firsthand. His story is incredible, but he's worked hard to kind of achieve that work-life balance and to really have holistic growth in his life. And I love that he coaches that now. But yeah, great leader, great coach. Get to meet him if you never have. So thanks, Wally, for coming on. So the next guest is also from IEB. In fact, he is the CEO of Inspector Empire Builder. And dude, this is one of my favorite people that I've ever met in the entire inspection industry, and a good friend as well. His name's Mark Hummel. And honestly, I got to tell you, there's never been a time where I've sat down with Mark where I haven't come away with a nugget of wisdom that wasn't immediately applicable and long-term beneficial. And so I hope this proves to be the same for you guys. Sit back, take notes, enjoy, and I hope you guys really glean some huge nuggets of wisdom in your leadership journey from Mr. Mark Hummel. All right, so welcome back to take 2 of the last interview of Inspection Fuel Ultra. And first of all, before we jump in, go ahead, tell everybody what you're doing and who you are.
All right, so Mark Hummel, CEO of Inspector Empire Builder. We are a training and coaching company for the home inspection industry. We specialize in just the business building side of home inspection companies.
That's awesome, man. And what we were talking about when we hit record on this thing is whether or not I've done an interview where we've gotten through the whole thing and it didn't record. Yes. The first interview that we did here, I used the 2 mics that we got here. I had a lapel mic on our third guest, and I had just used this mic for a previous speaker as well. recorded his whole thing, and it was actually poor Harmony Brown. She sits down, and I set everything up the same way. It did not record Jack Diddley and or squat of the entire interview. 30 minutes. We have to redo the whole thing. I felt so bad because I was looking forward to that interview. But anyway, yeah.
I can relate, man. I can relate. I have recorded 30, 45-minute sessions on Zoom, educational content kind of stuff, and looked down to my terror to see that nobody hit record.
Yeah.
And,
it's the worst feeling,
and
man.
it's usually the best take that happens to.
It is, because then it's like you want to touch on all of those things all over again, but then you almost feel like you're just kind of going through the motions at that point.
Yep.
So, yeah, no fun at all. So, so Mark and I, we met at Inspection Fuel last year, but I had heard so much about IEB, what they do, what they bring to the home inspection community. Please tell the listeners that don't know what you guys are all about. You kind of summed it up, but let's go into detail a little bit about what offerings you bring to home inspectors to really help them do better with their businesses.
Yeah, so just kind of starting at the highest level, we're a mastermind group, and our big vision is to see the level of business knowledge, education, and training just continually elevate in our industry. So one of the things that's true is our industry has been shifting and shifting and shifting. And we're working really hard to be ahead of that shift. Talking about things that are really important to the industry, really important to how things are playing out. Like right now, for example, we're seeing a lot of things with consolidation. We're seeing a lot of things with AI. We're seeing a lot of things with really just a lot of innovation even coming out of the downturn, right? It's forcing a lot of shifts in the way people are thinking about our industry. And so it's important to us that we're having the highest level of conversation possible for the people who are running home inspection companies.
So what does that look like as far as everything that you guys do for inspectors? What does that look like over the course of the year? I've been to IEB's conference, their big, huge event. I found it to be absolutely fascinating, some of the subjects that you guys got into. And but you guys are doing a few more focused things in addition to that now as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah, certainly. So what you were exposed to was just one small part of what we do. So we have 4 conferences per year, and 2 of them are online, 2 of them are in person. We absolutely love to get together in person.
Yeah.
And we build a lot of culture and connection with the group when we do that. But IEB is much bigger than just the conferences, right? So there's this concept that in order to build a big business or a big life even, like you've got to build a big you.
Right.
And so that's the missing element for a lot of people when they come to IEB is they're just trying to force themselves into a successful business or force a successful business without learning some of the business building techniques or even just business strategy in general. Right. But we start to break that down into all kinds of layers: financial acumen, business acumen, organizational structure, training systems is a big one. For example, even if you're a single man shop and you're thinking of hiring a guy, like the time it takes to recruit, select, train, manage, and motivate that guy changes the game entirely for you as a business owner.
Absolutely.
Right. And so a lot of those shifts are what we help people with.
Okay, that's fantastic. But you focus really on, I've noticed this too, kind of a holistic model of leadership coaching as well.
Yep.
So get into some of that, because you and I both understand that business is more than just the success of the company. If the individual is not healthy, if they're not growing personally, then the business isn't going to either. So what do you guys offer on that level, kind of a more personal side of leadership development too?
Yeah. So, we're interested in the person.
Right.
So let's say you're interested in coming to IEB, and you and I are having a conversation of what it would look like for you to become an IEB member. Well, typically what's going to happen is you're going to want to know the different things that's included with membership.
Right.
It's not the starting point. What I want to know is, what is your level of interest in actually being the person who can run an amazing business?
Right.
And
that's good, man.
There's a lot more to it than just saying, hey, do these 3 things in your marketing strategy and you're going to, get 100 more inspections. We care a lot about that, and we want to help with that. But that's not sustainable if you're not becoming the person who can sustain it.
No, it's really about the process of developing yourself as well. I mean, if there was a shortcut cheat sheet that you could go by for everybody, then that would be wonderful. And yet there really is a lot of personal development and growth that goes into that. So that's huge, man. So how about you? I mean, tell me how you got into this particularly, because you've got a really interesting story as well.
Yeah. So Interestingly enough, I'm not from the inspection space. I was never a real estate agent. And I think that has served me really well, actually.
Yeah,
So,
no doubt, man.
so coming in with an outsider's point of view, essentially as a business coach, sort of from the consultant perspective,
Yeah,
has allowed us to really take a look at what we do in IEB in a broader sense, right?
sure.
And there's one thing that's really, I'll circle back to your question about me in a moment, but this thought just occurred to me. There's one thing that's really interesting to us, which is to look outside of the inspection industry to see what other industries are doing really well
That's huge, man.
and bring those things back in. And
Yeah.
so when we bring coaches to the table, for example, or speakers to the table who are from outside the industry, we see an acceleration for our clients, for our members, in their own knowledge and how they're doing things in their business.
Sure. What are some of those individuals? What industries are you bringing them in from, and what kind of skill sets and expertise do they have?
Good question. So I'll answer broadly, and then maybe we can drill down. So
Sure. Yeah.
So the truth is a lot of coaches are generalists,
Mm-hmm.
right? They
Yep.
can kind of stay at the surface and talk a lot about strategies, accountability, goal setting,
Right.
different things like that. But if we really want to help people move things forward in a meaningful way, we need to bring in specialists,
Sure. Okay.
right? And so a specialist would be like a sales coach, for example, or a health coach,
Mhm.
or a growth coach, right? Growth different than sales. Growth being more of the whole division, growth division for a home inspection company.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Sales being more like the strategy and tactics that go into talking on the phone and what are your numbers and that kind of stuff.
Right.
So we're also interested in just bringing kind of outside the box people in. For example, don't tell anybody this yet because it's not a done deal and it may not happen. But
Does this part need to be edited out here?
yeah, no, I'll let you decide that.
Okay.
But for our conference next year, Unite, we have a conference coming up in like 6 weeks in November. But we also have one in May called Unite. And we're looking at a pretty big name to bring in from the coaching space. It's a really successful podcast. Goes by the name of The Mindset Mentor.
Okay.
And I'm just going to let everybody else put those pieces together. Go check out that podcast. Maybe that's
Nice.
how I could help him.
Wait, who does that?
Who does that?
Yeah.
You got to go find out.
I got to find that out. Okay.
The Mindset Mentor.
Nice.
Amazing podcast. But those are the kind of people we're looking to bring into our conferences and really drill down into thinking at the highest level as a business owner.
Yeah, that's huge, man.
Yeah. I'm being
So-
very vague with you on purpose because I want people to go check out his podcast.
Okay. Yeah. No,
And-
definitely. I'll have
yeah.
to check it because I haven't even listened to it. I feel like I should at this point, but no, I haven't yet.
Yeah, it's really good.
So, and I'll probably see the name and be like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yep.
So, does he wear a ball cap?
I think he does.
Okay. Doesn't have like a deep voice or
No,
no? Okay.
does not
so,
have a deep voice.
So it's not Tony Robbins.
It's not Tony
Oh,
Robbins.
dude, like that would be pretty freaking crazy though.
Yeah, that
But
would
I
be
feel
cool.
like the Unite tickets would have to be like way
Yep.
price for
I
your brand.
imagine.
Yeah.
I imagine that would be true.
Okay, cool, man. Now that'll be awesome. So wait, when is IEB Unite happening?
So Unite is in May.
Okay.
We're solidifying the dates for that. We have our fall mastermind conference in November, 8th through the 10th in Austin.
Now is that the RGT training?
Completely different.
Completely different. Okay.
Yep. RGT training is a 2.5-day class that we do that is a complete deep dive into the systems and processes and things that we teach.
Nice.
And it is a way to just dive headfirst into what it's like to be trained and coached by our coaches,
Okay.
be in community with us as we do some masterminding in the class, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And at the same time, if you're not ready for something like a membership, you still get lots of great content, exposure to IEB, and then walk away and go do cool
Yeah.
things in your business.
Dude, that's awesome. So I hear a lot about masterminding in the real estate space from realtors.
Mhm.
A lot of them have business coaches. A lot of them have mentors. I know some great people like Keller Williams, and they're huge on that.
Mhm.
You don't hear it so much in the home inspection space, and that's why you guys have been so unique.
Yeah.
But have you noticed that there's a lot of like skepticism toward masterminding and toward business coaching? And for anybody that's kind of come to IEB with any doubts about the effectiveness, tell me some success stories of ways that like their businesses and their lives have changed as a result.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I want to say this, that the power of coaching is profound.
Sure.
If you are a business owner and you do not have some sort of mentoring or coaching or something like that going on in your world, that is your next step for growth,
Okay.
period, right? Because we can only do so much on our own. The truth is that we need an objective pair of eyes looking at what we're doing, asking us great questions. And within the inspection space, there are several great options. I believe IEB is a wonderful option for that. We've got IGO. They're an awesome option for that.
Yep.
We've got Mike Crow, who has added so much to the industry. I just saw him a few minutes ago leaving
Yeah,
the
he was
conference.
just walking away.
Yep. Yeah. So there's a lot of great options. And what I always encourage people to do is check them all out.
Yep.
And just make sure you're not doing it alone.
And my apology to Mike Crow if he watches this back, because I called him Mike Casey like twice this week, because both of them were here and both of them are awesome. And they also have such similar names. But no, Mike Crow is definitely awesome. So,
yeah.
Yep. Sorry, Mike.
Sorry, Mike.
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, there are some great options in our industry. And even you guys have got the Summit Group, right?
Yeah.
That's another one. And so, again, like if you're hearing this and you've never thought about masterminding or coaching or anything like that, like check out all the groups and make a decision with what's best for you.
Sure. And I mean, some of what's so great about these conferences is like, we don't just talk business here. I mean, you were just telling me earlier that some of the conversations you've had were totally worth the price of coming out.
Yeah. So some of the conversations I've had were with people who'd never heard of IEB before. And so that's always really meaningful to us to get to just spread the word. Hey, we exist. You know, we're an option in the coaching space for the home inspection industry. Hearing from some of our members is always really, really impactful. In fact, I was meeting with one of our amazing members, Adam Dalton.
Okay.
I hope he hears this. He was sharing some feedback with me about IEB, good and bad. And I'll tell you the truth, man. IEB has been built on the feedback of the members.
Okay.
Because it's for them.
Yeah, no doubt.
Right? It's 100% for them, and they tell us where the need is, and that gives us really, really great direction with where to take the conversations and that kind of thing. So I really, really loved the conversation with him and a lot of other people here this week, just hearing about experiences in the industry, how we can best serve them, and even their experience in IEB and how we can best serve them.
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah, for me, a lot of the those conversations here, they tend to come back to the intersection of like real life, everyday life, and business, because what we do for a living is not our whole identity. Like there's those individuals, they kind of do make it their whole personality.
Yeah.
And yet the healthiest thing that I've ever heard from the most incredible bosses that I've ever worked under is that this is just a job. You know, at the end of the day, it's just a job. It feeds into what we truly are put on this earth for.
Yeah.
It feeds into the ability to go out and pursue our passions and pursue our interests. But you know, whether it's taking care of our families or working with nonprofits, but it's not our entire lives. Like it's great to be able to take joy from what we do for a living, but when it gets back to the nitty gritty of everyday life and being able to be like, hey, how's your family? You know, what are you guys going through? How can we help? Those kinds of things really are what I find to be the most meaningful about some of these events.
Dude,
So,
you're speaking my language, man.
yeah, man. Yeah.
So now we're making the shift in the conversation from what most people enter with, which is like these external goals.
Right.
This much revenue, this much this many inspections, this whatever, right? External goals versus identity-based goals.
Yeah, man.
That's a huge shift in coaching,
Right.
in masterminding, and it's a big piece of what we do in IEB is like, hey, who are you?
Right.
Like, who cares how big your company is or how small your company is, as long as you're doing it in alignment with who you are.
That's exactly it. I mean, for me, I was working with teens back in the day. I was a youth leader, but that doesn't pay very well as far as being able to afford any sort of quality of life. You know, I had student loans that I had to pay back. And the first inspector that I ever worked with was like, okay, I see that you've really got this drive and this passion for working with teens. But, you know, if you really want to afford to put a roof over a head and have a family, why don't I teach you how to be a home inspector so that way you can control your own schedule, afford the life you want. And then it's not asking the question of how much money do you want to make. It's about what do you want to do with your life?
Yeah.
And what's it going to take to be able to afford that? So,
Exactly that.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we have a saying in IEB that, you know, well, we didn't make it up at all. I know we didn't make it up, but we say it all the time. The purpose of business is to fund a perfect life.
Yeah. That's
Right?
good, man.
It's not the other way around.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's huge. So how is this funding your perfect life? How is this working to accomplish what you are passionate about, what you're put here for? What's your purpose?
I always appreciate those kind of questions. And so I'm a pretty simple guy. I'm happy if my family's happy.
That's good, man.
I'm also happy if I have some time to just go do, you know, hang out and do my hobbies and meet with cool, interesting people, which is how I view conferences like this.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. So I definitely have some big goals for IEB. The way that I see it positioned in the industry is as an industry leader, helping people to learn and grow and increase their level of business acumen.
Okay.
Um, I'll tell you one thing that really, really excites me, which is right in alignment with who I am, identity-based goals, is I believe, those of you watching, those of you listening, I believe that there are people in the industry now and people who are going to enter the industry when things start to really pick up again, whenever that happens, um, who are going to be large, successful companies because they got coaching.
That's awesome, man.
And
So it's
they're
almost like investing now, even though they're not quite where they want to be yet.
right. But
Right.
the opposite of that is there are people with the potential out there. You know who you are too, because everybody knows what kind of potential they have. There are people out there who are not going to do it because they simply didn't have coaching,
Got it.
right?
What is it that keeps people from pursuing that?
I think mostly it's fear-based. That may not make sense on the surface, so I'll unpack that a little bit.
Do it.
Yeah, so when somebody's thinking about, getting a coach or maybe getting some help outside of themselves, the first thing that happens is it feels like a painful new job
Sure.
to have to explain to somebody what it is that you want, what it is that you need, and for somebody to help you, right?
Mhm.
It's not as easy as somebody just coming in and reading your mind and being
Right,
able to
right.
help you, right?
It'd
So
be nice, but yeah.
it'd be super nice. So that's one barrier is if I don't know what kind of help I need and I don't know how to get help, then I'm not even going to engage somebody for help.
Okay.
Okay. So that's one thing. And the next thing is a lot of people need to really take a hard look at who they're hanging out with.
That's big, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the level of vision that they have in their life is going to be directly correlated to the people they're hanging out with. So if you're a single man shop hanging out with a bunch of single man shops, you'll probably be happy always being in a single man shop.
Sure.
Nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I know there's a lot of people out there that are like, they have this little thing in the back of their mind, or like, I want a business.
Right.
I don't want a
right.
job, right? You got to pay attention to who you're hanging out with and who's
Absolutely.
influencing you
Yeah.
in that regard. If you want to be a big company, hang out with people who have big companies.
Yeah. That's
Right?
huge, man.
And that's the same concept with coaching. If you want to do big things, you need to talk to people who are doing big things,
Right.
right?
If you can hang out directly with those individuals too, like just kind of shortening that path of access,
Mhm.
that's humongous. as well.
100%.
So fantastic. So who are some of those resources for you? What's been most helpful to you as a leader of other leaders?
Good question, man. So one thing that's really important to me, and I draw a lot of thought and introspection from, is my faith.
Okay.
And so
Awesome, dude.
I spend a lot of time in that lane, and it's one of my 3 areas of focus this year. And those are CEO development, habits and behavior change that helps me coach people, and then spiritual development. So that's the
awesome.
first place. So I'm always, going to church and talking to people in that lane, and they
No doubt.
keep me focused on what's important to me. But then there are a lot of people in this industry too who I really look up to. They're really doing some interesting things in their businesses, and they're just hard charging, focused people.
Yeah.
And for me, I want to be around those people,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
And some of them are IEB members, some of them are not.
Mhm.
But yeah, so aside from that, there's a lot of people who don't know I exist, but also influence me.
There you go. No, that's huge, man. Yeah.
Podcast, books, things
Right.
like that. Yeah.
I mean, you are what you take in. I've seen this so many times in my own life and other people's lives, and that can be really for better or worse. And you've got to decide which it is that you want. But no, that's phenomenal. I mean, even just sitting as a vendor at Unite last year and just seeing how the light bulb was clicking on for some folks, that was phenomenal, man. And
Yeah.
the synergy that comes from that, the passion that comes from that, you can't help but want to kind of pursue that and keep that fire lit and see where it takes you when you hang out with people that are feeding into that. So, yeah, that's awesome.
My favorite thing to see in IEB is when somebody has a conversation with me or maybe somebody on the team, and they're like, hey, what's IEB? They decide to jump in, and they become a member, and they get exposure to the community for the first time.
Right.
And then their level of vision just explodes.
Sure.
Like they're suddenly exposed to a group of people who are thinking at a way different level. I don't want to say higher because there's no hierarchy here,
Sure.
but a way different level, right? They have a really focused vision for their companies.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, these new folks are like, oh my gosh, that's possible. Now I know exactly what I want to do.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And it can be I guess in a couple senses, I love that you guys come at this from a sense of empowerment, kind of
Mhm.
from a point of empowerment. Because when you look in the mirror as a business owner, it's so easy to be like, God, I could be doing so much more.
Mhm.
But instead of beating yourself up and going, why am I not? Sitting back and talking with people who can go, well, here might be some areas where you can. It's having a can do, not an I haven't attitude.
Mhm.
And it's contagious, it's infectious. So, and it
Certainly.
shifts your kind of the paradigm of thinking to where you are not holding yourself back, but looking at the ways that you can push yourself ahead. So again, but I don't think you answered the dang question, dude. How did you get into this?
Yeah. No, I
So,
definitely didn't.
you're good. You're a master at dodging this one. I can tell.
Well, it's I don't know how interesting of a story it is, but so I'm a paramedic by trade.
Okay.
So I spent my early years, really first 13 years, as a paramedic.
Okay.
And so I came from the Houston area, which caused me to kind of start out at Galveston County EMS.
Okay.
And so I was a paramedic there. And within the first 5 years or so of working there, I started to get out of the field and into management and different things like that. And that's where I really started to understand that what I was really drawn to was not medicine
Right.
or clinical techniques or anything like that. It was people.
Sure. Yeah.
And as I started studying leadership, for example, I started understanding different leadership models and different ways of leading teams. And that just kept pushing me deeper and deeper into that world. And so I became the operations manager for the county EMS agency.
Okay.
And eventually I became a task force leader for what's called the Emergency Medical Task Force for,
Nice.
for
Dude,
Texas.
that sounds so hardcore.
Doesn't it? Doesn't it?
The Emergency Medical Task
Yep.
Force.
EMTF. Yep. I had a cool black patch for it too.
Nice.
So my job with that was to help coordinate pre-hospital resources in large-scale disasters, right? So hurricanes, terrorist attacks, different things like that. And so it started to become clear to me that, if I was going to stay in that industry, that the next level of success was going to be something like working full-time with the state of Texas or FEMA or even local politics.
That's awesome, man.
It was awesome until I decided it wasn't for me.
Okay.
Yep. And so
Well, but that's awesome too, that you can actually like recognize that. You tried it, you pursued it, you recognize that maybe there's a shift that has to happen here and continue on.
it was amazing. A really, really good and fun career and did amazing things for me as a leader, just helping me learn. You definitely learn leadership really fast when you have to,
Yeah, no
right?
doubt.
When there's life and death situations, different things like that. So anyway, I had this epiphany that as a manager, I was getting really good at systems, processes, and improving and refining and things like that in really high stress situations. But as I got higher and higher into levels of leadership, it shifted away from like things,
Right.
systems and processes to people. And I was like, man, I really like deconstructing a person
Okay.
and then helping them understand who they are and then helping them build back up in
Yeah.
a more significant form of themselves. Coaching.
That's it.
Yep.
No, so it was really interesting to hear you use that term about deconstruction because, again, you're somebody who attends church, Christian guy. I am too. And yet, when you hear somebody coming from that background using the word deconstruction, usually it's like, I've given up on everything I believe and I'm just throwing it to the wind and seeing what falls. And whatever's left is what is. But how do you view that in a healthy way in terms of coaching?
Yeah. So I love that question. So if you don't mind, I'll completely riff into that.
Do it, man. Yeah, go.
All right. So this is the starting point for really making something of yourself.
Right.
Okay. So we've got to start with a deep understanding of who we are, high level of self-awareness, right? So
Right.
how do we get there? Well, we've got to study.
Yeah.
Like we've got to understand, we've got to begin to learn who we are. And most people feel like they have a good sense of who they are and maybe even a strong ego around that. But the truth is when you start to really unpack your story, you arrive at levels of self-awareness that can humble you,
Yeah, man.
really humble you.
Yeah.
Right. And so to make this piece short, my favorite thing to do with somebody in coaching is to understand what their past is, how they became who they are, what their habits look like, how their past has created their habits. What we would say, overarching terminology is their behavior.
Right.
And then if we can have a really good understanding of who we are right now and how we got here, then we can start to understand what it takes to become the person we need to be
Sure.
to do the things we want to do.
So it's a kind of like stripping things down, but thinking with the end in mind, and then building that back up. So
That's exactly right.
that's huge, dude.
So if we bring this full circle,
Yes.
like how does all this relate to the home inspection industry and IEB, right?
Right.
And so IEB is, we really do encourage people to take a holistic approach to building themselves. And so there's really 6 key areas that we want to take a look at if you're going to be a strong business owner, right? And that's, let's see if I can do these first take, all
You got
6
it.
in a row. So it's your environment. It's the way it's worded is social, emotional, mental, physical, environmental, and spiritual.
Nailed it.
Yep. I got
There
it.
you go.
I got it. So if you can give purposeful focus to each of those areas, then what you're going to do is you're going to show up as a bigger and better business owner too.
Yeah, no doubt.
Right. So a lot of times we're leading with just 1 or 2 of those things as a business owner, and all the time we're grinding away at the business, feeling like there's something missing, there's something more. We get burned out in just 1 or 2 of those lanes. We've got no energy left for the others. And what does that get you? It gets you burnout. It gets you frustration. It gets you thinking, well, was that ever really my vision? Do I really want to be a business owner?
Or we talked about this before, kind of off air. Am I doing enough?
Am I doing enough?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that just compounds stress.
100%.
Yep.
We have this tool that we talk a lot about in IEB. Another one of those things that we didn't make up. It's a pretty common tool in mastermind groups and coaching. It's called the one sheet. Yeah, and the one sheet is a really important thing for us because it's where people can put all of their goals on one sheet and then bring it into their pod meetings and the different things in IEB for some accountability.
That's cool.
Yeah, and so it lists out all those 6 areas that I just talked about, including your financials, your health, and a lot of other areas where we really try to take that holistic approach.
Dude, I love it, man. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. So to wrap it up then, how can people find out more about IEB? How can they get involved? How can they sign up?
Yeah, so there's a few things you can do.
Okay.
So one is a lot of times people will reach out to me and message me just on Facebook.
Okay.
I'm pretty active on Facebook because I'm in the groups and everything,
Sure, yeah.
and I try to help answer questions when I can. So you can find me on Facebook, shoot me a message, I'll respond,
Yep.
whether it's business or anything else. The other thing you can do just to find out more specifically about IEB is go to iebcoaching.com.
Okay.
And everything's there on the website, including some opportunities for you to get some free stuff from IEB, experience a little bit of what we do, no charge to you, including we do a free webinar each month where people who are not members of IEB can come learn all about it, ask questions, get help with what they're dealing with, and a number of other things.
So that's it for the renamed relaunch podcast here at the Ride Along Podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the first episode. And I hope you guys stay tuned down the road because there's going to be so much more of this awesome stuff coming y'all's way. And what did you guys take away from this? In fact, put it down in the comments. I want to hear from you guys. What was the biggest thing that you learned from either Wally or Mark Hummel today? Sound off in the comments. And in fact, let's make this a community thing where we can help each other. What is the biggest thing that you're struggling to grow with as a business owner and as a leader in your own right? How can we help you on that? Put that in the comments below too. And of course, I always welcome y'all's stories from the field. That's kind of how this show started. So if you saw something crazy this week in the field, send that to me at bradleylowry@porch.com. I'd love to tell your story on here as well, or even feature you. But thank you so much for tuning in. Let's do it again next time right here on the Ride Along Podcast. See you down the road.